is Elizabeth Joyce. I had the impulse to write a satire on what I think is coming in the Great Reset. Since Biden was inaugurated, the overall theme is what has been important. And all the storylines that I've been following are now dead ends. The old deep state has won, at least for the time being, and I think permanently, except for the will of God. Yes, God still rules the planet as well as our universe. And if you doubt that, why don't you ask one of the beings in all the other worlds? We're about to meet them. The one thing focused on here on planet Earth rises from the background that a cabal of powerful men have controlled both the influence and the opinions of the American public for many, many years. This hypothesis has now been held since the time of President Wilson, but in more recent decades, it has centered upon themes regarding the Bilderbergers, Bohemian Grove, and the Davos. Until the present decade, these were strongly dismissed as the premise of conspiracy theorists, which was a derogatory dismissal. However, many people, like JFK and others, have held similar concerns. Where we will go now is to the Great Reset, which is definitely on. The question is, whose Great Reset is this? The answer is that the old deep state has pulled off an election coup, and it's about time for it to march forward. Boy, am I in trouble with some people who just won't believe any of this. So, here's the story. I'm spelling it out for those who don't believe it, and it goes like this. Donald J. Trump got elected a term ago and promised to drain the swamp. So, what is the swamp? It was the old deep state in control of the State Department, the FBI, the CIA, and about 14 other intelligence agencies, and pretty much the Pentagon, along with the mainstream media. This is a pretty formidable group. The major corporations, much of the finance community, and everything else that counts in controlling the country and public opinion. In controlling the public opinion has been the conspiracy theory side of the internet. And even there, they have had great success by manipulating it through trolls, moles, and other misguided souls. The main propaganda tool has been a rise and a mirage of conflict of opinion that has absorbed the analytical capabilities of the masses. The underlying powers were indifferent to any opinions and contributed to both political parties, so that no matter who won in the election, they could continue to control the seats of power and write the laws. To accept this premise that the powers that be have intentionally misguided and manipulated the general population, one must accept the revealed historical evidence, as it has done so for decades. In case you need to know, that documentation lies in authentic reports that anyone can find. Operation Mockingbird, Operation Northwoods, Project MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip, Operation Gladio, Majestic 12, Project Artichoke, Project MK Often, Project MK Miami, NAOMI. Manipulated along with the curious release in the last couple of months of recent discoveries in physics. These discoveries in physics will set previous concepts of reality up on their heads. Also, we have new military technologies that have just revolutionized warfare. And if that were not scary enough, there's also the newly released astounding, previously classified information about the reality of UFOs, life in all the other worlds. There are so many new things wanting to get my attention, but now I am focusing deeply on the new reset. In the past, all the information was much more hidden. Towards the end of the 1990s, and just a few miles up the road, the Bilderbergs were holding one of their secret meetings, covered by the world non-mainstream media. The great secret, after that time, was revealed in 1991 by David Rockefeller, who died in 2017. While you now won't be allowed to see this on YouTube, what he said was, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and have respected their promise of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity." Bilderbergers was operated by Davos, which did not attain much notoriety until later. Both were in the domain of the wealthy and the powerful. It is the recent influence of Davos and its founder that has the world's attention. Klaus Schwab was a developer of Davos and the primary director of Bilderbergers. To prove this thread yourself, go to YouTube and search Schwab on Reset and Trudeau on Reset. Source after source have claimed that the Schwab family tree or connection to the Rothschilds could not be found. The Rothschild story is an amazing one, but we're not going to discuss that here. You can see why they would want to be in the background. That family is thought to be the singlest concentration of wealth on earth, and it is quite understandable to no longer occupy the chair of being seen to set the price of gold. But lest we digress, let me summarize the basis to this point. The Rothschilds, the world's wealthiest family, lies behind the old deep state, which controls Davos, whose founder, Schwab, controls the Bilderbergers. And Schwab's mentor was Kissinger. Very interesting connection. And his front man money, the bag man, and they have had deep state connections to China through Biden and others. All of this points towards the Great Reset. Look it up in Wikipedia. And the World Economic Forum, which meant Davos in 2020. This meeting was a virtual conference between the world leaders, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, and many others. To truly understand the Great Reset, one should read Klaus Schwab's books, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, published in 2016, COVID-19, The Great Reset, published in 2020, and Stakeholder Capitalism, coming out in 2021. The major Great Reset concepts are stakeholder capitalism, build back better, modern monetary theory, and subsidiarity. There is much more about each and any of these key points, such as deep shifts, robotics, health, population, and others, the end of privacy, the role of religion, the future of the UN and the World Health Organization, cryptocurrency, and so forth. This is what's being planned for us. At the moment, the predominant activity disturbing the world's financial and economical monetary equilibrium is the battle between the US dollar and the Chinese dollar. The Chinese dollar is sometimes referred to as the yuan, and other times referred to as the RMB. Due to technical differences, they are somewhat similar to the differences between our dollar and the U.S. reserve note. This great battle is between what has been the unipolar world power, or the U.S. dollar, surrounded by its satellites, the euro, the pound, and other Western currencies, and the emerging Eastern power of China with all new satellites. But there are alternative agendas too, and alternative views. There is infighting, a lot of it, between the old deep state and the new deep state. For one thing, The 1776 report, the President's Advisory 1776 Commission, that is what American democracy looks like, which was Donald Trump's version. It may not have that much significance anymore since the Biden coup seems complete. The Donald's mega vision was stated by Theodore Roosevelt in 1907, and I quote, "There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he's an American, but something else also, isn't an American at all. We have room but for one flag, the American flag. We have room but for one language here, and that's the English language. And we have room but for one sole loyalty, and that's the loyalty to the American people. We can call that the Patriot's Pledge." End quote. And it's totally wrong, and it's inappropriate, and it's out of place at this time. We've grown beyond those limitations. But there is no telling that to any large segment of the U.S. population, one must have a higher loyalty than to their country. God created the whole world, and God loves all nations and all people. One can have lesser loyalties to their families, to their high schools, to their colleges as they cheer them on, hopefully to their cities and states and many others, but none of these should be higher than the highest loyalty. In the Great Reset, there will be a formed and reformed United Nations, which hopefully one can have an allegiance and concern for the whole of humankind, but even that must not be your highest loyalty. We may be emerging into a world of interplanetary, if not intergalactic interplay. And even there, one must be a good citizen with their highest loyalty to God and His creation from every part of this universe. The Great Reset can look quite appealing, and I'm sure it's going to happen. This may be why China has all those empty cities, but it's not going to happen in the manner anticipated. Nevertheless, permit me to give a description of what's ahead. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. And that might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense to me in this city. Everything you once considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodations, food, and all the things that we need to run our daily lives. One by one, all of these things became free, so it ended up not making any sense for us to own much. First, communication became digitalized and free to everyone. Then, when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price. It made no sense for us to own cars anymore because we could call a driverless vehicle or a flying car for longer journeys within minutes. We started transporting ourselves in a much more organized and coordinated way when public transportation became easier, quicker, and more convenient than the car. Now I can hardly believe that we ever accepted congestion and traffic jams, not to mention the air pollution from the combustible engines. What were we thinking? Sometimes I use my bike to go and see my friends. I enjoy the exercise and the ride. It kind of gets the soul to come along on the journey. Funny how some things never seem to lose their excitement. Walking, biking, cooking, drawing, and growing plants. This makes perfect sense and reminds us of how our culture emerged out of a close relationship with nature. Environmental problems seem far away. In our city, we don't pay rent because someone else is using our space whenever we don't need it. My living room was used as a business meeting last week and is always used for something when I'm not here. Once in a while, I will choose to cook for myself. It's easy. The necessary kitchen equipment is delivered at my door within minutes. Since transportation became free, we stopped having all those things stuffed in our home. Why keep a pasta maker and a slow cooker crammed in our cupboards? We can just order them when we need them. And this has also made the breakthrough of the circular economy easier. When products are turned into services, no one has an interest in things with a short lifespan. Everything is designed for durability, repairability, and replaceability. The materials are flowing more quickly in our economy and can be transferred into new products easily. Environmental problems seem far away. Since we only use clean energy and clean product methods, the air is clean, the water is clean, and nobody would dare touch the protected areas of nature because they constitute such value to our well-being. In the cities, we have plenty of green space and plants and trees all over. I still don't understand why in the past we filled free spots in the city with concrete. The death of shopping. Shopping? I can't really remember what that is. For most of us, it has been turned into choosing something to use. Sometimes I find this fun, and sometimes I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my tastes better than I do by now. And when Al and the robots took over so much of our work, we suddenly had time to eat well, sleep well, and spend time with our friends. The concept of rush hour makes no sense anymore, since the work that we can do can be done at any time. I don't really know if I would call it work anymore. It's more like thinking time, creation time, and development time. For a while, everything was turned into entertainment, games, and more games. And people did not want to bother themselves with difficult issues. It was only at the last minute that we found out how to use all these things through the new technologies for better purposes than just killing time. You know, others have different lives and they live outside of the city. My biggest concern is that all the people who do not live here in our city, those who lost their way, those who decided that it became too much, all this technology, when the robots and Al took over all of our big jobs. Those people who felt obsolete and useless, we call them the meek. Those people who got upset with the political system and turned against it. They live different kinds of lives outside of this city. Some have formed little self-supplying communities. Others have just stayed in their empty and abandoned houses in their small 20th century villages. They grow gardens and intermingle with each other. They play something called music and they sing. We don't sing. Some of them go outside and sit on the ground under a tree and talk quietly with their heads bowed. It's quite a sight. They also talk a lot with each other. They call this prayer or faith or something. We're really not allowed to speak or think about this here. Once in a while I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. There's nowhere I can go and not be registered, and I know that. Somewhere, everything I do, think, and dream of is recorded. I just hope that nobody will use it against me. But all in all, it's a good life. Much better than the path we were on, where it became so clear that we could not continue in the same mode of growth. On Earth, we had these terrible things happening: lifestyle diseases, climate change, the refuge crisis, environmental degradation, complete congested cities, water pollution, air pollution, social unrest, a lot of social unrest, and unemployment. We lost way too many people before we realized that we could do things differently. Come on into our city. We're fine. That's the end. But much of this description of the Great Reset sounds great. Some aspects you will find disturbing. No matter. I know this. Something is about to occur. I do not know exactly what. I do not know exactly when. but the world's major concerns. Not only has China announced that the digital currency is backed by gold, but it is also implementing a cryptocurrency. There's apparently a distinction, but I do not begin to understand any of this. This is Elizabeth Joyce with Visions of Reality. The website is new-visions.com. If you'd like to make a call to ask a question or book some time with me, the 24-hour answering service is 201-934-8986. Thank you for listening, and I really appreciate that you took the time to listen to this satire.